Hello, it's JC here again. Um, I recently got the A2A Comanche as seen here, and I just want to say this aircraft is pretty awesome, and I just kind of wanted to do a video on it showcasing some of the in-depthness of this simulation. And here we are, just parked at KBFI in Seattle. I'm using the ORBX Pacific Northwest scenery, and I was just planning on just doing kind of a demo flight. This is probably going to be a multi-video session here, series. So let's go ahead and get started. First we'll load up the interactive pre-flight, which I believe is Shift 8. There we go. And just like in the real world, you start with the cabin, which we'll go ahead and move into. That's the control wheel. We'll remove the bungee cord. Let's see here. Turn on the master. Check the fuel quantity gauges. Okay. Fuel selectors on both. And that's a little hard to see. Right, main. Okay. Turn off the master switch. You know what? I'm gonna get rid of this thing. There we go. I'm still getting a little used to track IR, so just bear with me here. Ignition's off. Start button off. Flaps extend. Alright, my flaps are indeed extended. Let's go ahead and move outside. And we'll start with the right flap here. Check for security and condition. All you do is hit this little icon here. Looks pretty secure to me. Check the the connector rods. Check for any obvious corrosion, rust, and just overall security. These actually pivot in real life. I've never flown the Comanche, but I did used to fly the Archer and the Warrior. So that's the story of those. I'll check the aileron. Proper movement. No signs of any damage. Same here with the connecting rods. The bolts. Make sure those are secured. I went ahead and added the wingtip tanks. Nav lights look good, no damage. Let's check the fuel level. Alright. Well, we might get a little more fuel, but I think we're actually pretty good to go. with the mains. I'm not planning on doing like a cross country or anything. Landing light looks good, no damage. Leading edge looks good. Go and disconnect the tie down. Next we'll move on to the main wheel. Check the inflation, check the strut for any leaks, any damage, any obvious signs of hydraulic lines loose or whatnot. Remove the chocks. Okay, well, I got the door open. Let's see here. I think it was Control E1. Alright, now that the door is closed, we can access the fuel tank easier. Not bad. Alright. And onto the nose. Check the tire for proper inflation, any wear and tear. Looks good. I don't see any signs of a leak, hydraulic leak on the strut. Shimmy dampeners are looking good, although I can't get a good angle on there. It's mainly focusing on the tire. Do a quick fuel strain. And basically what you want to look for here is any discoloration in the fuel, which there is none. Usually 100 low lead fuel is blue or green. I mean, I've seen some crazy stuff with this fuel. I've seen like almost like looking like seaweed kind of bacteria that can form in old or contaminated fuel, or like algae. It's really weird, but you definitely don't want to see that in your fuel. Another thing that's most common, especially during like the fall or the early spring, is water. Water can get into the wing tanks, and therefore you'll start to see, you know, just these kind of little bead-like, you know, almost like a pool of mercury. It looks like when it builds up, you see these little beads just kind of fall down, you know, like oil and water. You know, you've seen that in, like, you know, various paperweights that they sell, you know, like at a novelty store or something, you know, because of course oil and water don't mix. So it's very obvious when you see that in your fuel. And basically all you do is you just keep straining the fuel until you start to see less of that. And until it's all gone, that's when you know you're good to go. So in this case our fuel is looking good, so we'll continue. Propeller, this is the Macaulay prop constant speed propeller, and we're just checking for any damage and overall security, and looks pretty good to me. Next we're going to focus on the engine cooling air inlets. Check for any restrictions, any bird nests, snakes, anything that's blocking it basically. You also want to check this air filter as well. It looks pretty good. Obstruction free. And next we're gonna check the oil. Oil's looking okay. It's not totally black and dirty. I've only done like 2 flights recently, and they weren't very far. They weren't for very long, so we just want to also make sure we have oil. Continue with the left wing. Check the fuel level. Looks good. And same thing as with the opposite side. Check the tire for any wear and tear. Looks good. No leakage. Nothing's broken. Go ahead and remove the chocks and the tie down here. Definitely don't want to taxi out with one of those still connected. Okay, next it's calling for the stall warning vane. Basically, when you move this up and down, you hear a little audible beep in the cockpit. You know, that stall horn sound. So, let's see. Secured. We don't have the master on. Normally I remember I would hear a little beep whenever I would mess with that, just to make sure it's actually working. And it's calling to test the pitted heat. Okay, I guess it's good. You would burn your fingers though as it heats up. We're just going to continue, and I'm trying to get a... Basically what you want to do is you want to also make sure that hole right there isn't obstructed, because that could give you an erroneous airspeed indication. And the leading edge of the wing looks good, no damage. Also, you want to check, you know, pretty much the overall wing. You want to look at the skin of the wing to see if there's any leaks, any fuel dripping out. Landing light looks good. Check the left nav light, looks good. Check the fuel. And here's the left aileron. We'll go ahead and move that up and down a bit. Looks working good. Check the connector rods. Looks good. And the Cessnas, I remember I started flying in a Cessna 152, and I used to remember there was always like a pin going through some of these lock nuts that you had to make sure was in there and not missing. I always thought it was, you know, a risk for FOD, which means foreign object debris, but luckily that pin was always really secure and in there. But these don't, at least in the pictures, it appears they're just a heavy-duty lock nut with no pin. Check the flaps for security. Looking good. This is just so awesome. Looks good. And we just want to give the fuselage also an overall look. Make sure there's no gouges into the metal or any antennas missing or damaged. Went ahead and added the speed fairings right here as well. I just gave this thing the works. Okay, also just as important is the pitot-static port right here, which is what the altimeter relies upon. And if this is blocked in any way, you'll get erroneous or no reading at all. So you want to make sure that's clear. No birds have made a little home, or wasps made a nest in there. Head on to the old tail here. Gonna disconnect the tie down. I believe they call it on the Piper, it's not really an elevator, it's called a stabilizer. Alright. And yeah, you want to check the hinge connection right here. Make sure there's a rod going straight through there. Of course you want to make sure that's secured. Be really careful though when you stick your fingers anywhere around here, as it can get pinched or worse. These are all the connector rods right here. Definitely want to keep a good eye on this, as it's exposed to some pretty good weather all the time. Trim tab looks secured. And just give the right side of the fuselage a looker. Looks good. Make sure the baggage door is locked. Okay. And we are back into the cabin, and that concludes our pre-flight. Now we can start with the before engine start checklist. So pull up the keyboard, and I'm going to go ahead and stop it here for now and continue in the next one. I'll see you guys later.